Hello everyone, Terrible Trio Joe here, and today I have a brief tutorial on how to do crouchouts in Halo 2 MCC for exiting these little sky bridges or lifts quickly on the level Gravemind. So, what is a crouchout? Well, in short, a crouchout is a way to quickly exit these lifts or sky bridges so that you don't lose momentum. So, for example, if I just walk into this normally, it's going to take me across. When I reach the end, it stops and drops me on the floor, and I have to walk out, and I can't really do anything to speed up. So, for example, here, like, I'm pressing forward, maybe I'm like spamming jump trying to get out, but it just doesn't work until the lift drops you down onto this surface here. So a crouch out is a way to quickly exit that. I knew that crouch outs were a thing in Halo 2 Classic, and I knew that they were possible in MCC because the current Gravemind world record by Nails has crouch outs in it. So I was asking some speedrunners to try and learn more about crouch outs, and what I heard from Cryphon is that crouch out is basically crouching in a specific rhythm such that you drop out of this lift. And when you drop out, basically that means you've escaped the automated things that happen while you're in the lift, including getting stopped at the end and placed on that pad. So a crouch out with the particular correct crouching rhythm, you drop out at the end of the lift, and then you can jump immediately as you hit the surface to kind of do a bunny hop and get all your momentum conserved, and you kind of launch forward out of the end of the lift without a stop at all. So you save a bunch of time, maybe like 5 seconds or something, just because instead of stopping and having to walk, you just don't stop and you fly forward and bounce with momentum in the perfect crouch out. So there are three key things that I learned through some practice to make crouch outs consistent for me. The first and most important one is that I've only gotten it consistent by using the mouse to perform a crouch out. Zoo mentioned that Nails used the mouse wheel when he was doing crouch outs, so I kind of looked into that, and here's what I found. If you go into your settings and configure your mouse and keyboard, it's important that you have your crouch behavior as hold, although I haven't tested with toggle crouch, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't work as well because the rhythm that I've used would be slower or something with toggle. So hold to crouch, and then in your keybinds, for crouch, you can bind a secondary keybind of mouse wheel up. And maybe you could use mouse wheel down. I haven't tested that at all, but that is mouse wheel up definitely works for me, and it's very consistent. So that's the first thing. Now, if I go back to the game, and here you see I'm using mouse and keyboard, I'm going to scroll up on the mouse, and you can see like the screen shake a tiny bit because it just presses crouch and instantly releases it. So you get a very quick crouch input. And if I scroll a bunch of them, you can see kind of bobbing a bunch of times. So that's the first important part. Second, you want to find a crouch scroll, like a scroll rhythm, a scroll up rhythm on your mouse that lets you consistently drop out of the lift. I've done a little bit of experimenting, and I find that for me to get this to work, I need to channel quite a few up scrolls in a smooth, consistent motion. So what I do is I let go of my mouse entirely and I place the tip of either my index or middle finger on the mouse wheel. I'm not holding the mouse, I just place the tip of my finger on the mouse wheel. And then I scroll up by rolling forward my finger over the mouse wheel, keeping consistent contact with it, and kind of roll along the length of my finger. And that gives me enough scroll inputs, crouch inputs, to reliably drop out of the lift. If I'm just like using my index finger to scroll normally, like if you were like scrolling on a web page or something, it doesn't give me enough inputs to drop out. So I have to kind of use the full length of a finger. So then basically just get yourself a checkpoint before one of these lifts. I recommend probably this one after the drone and jetpack elite room. If you kill both of the brutes in here, you can just wait here and get a checkpoint pretty reliably. And then just start walking into the lift and then practicing your scrolling to drop out. So you can see there I dropped out. Again, that was using that technique I described where I roll my finger down the top of the mouse wheel while letting go of the mouse. And what just happened right there is I didn't channel enough inputs and I stopped the scrolling up, so I kind of got pulled back into the lift. So again, just keep doing this, practicing until you find that kind of scroll motion that will drop you out of the lift consistently. Next up, and the last part of the trick, is probably the trickiest part, and it is to time your dropping out of the lift exactly so you land on that pad on the far side. And I have some information for a lineup on this. And as you land on the pad, you want to hit jump. Now, what happened there is I was a little too short, and I landed around here, and when I jumped, I went back into like the very end of the lift right here, and it caught me, and so it canceled all my momentum. But basically, you're just going to go in and practice the timing and hit it there. You can see that that wasn't a very good crouch out, but it was a crouch out. I didn't come to a stop right there, so maybe I saved like a second or something by doing that. Alright, I'm now going to cut to a clip about the lineup that you can use for this. One other lineup I've discovered that seems to work pretty well for me is to go into the lift and to keep your reticle aimed kind of at the top of the purple on the far side of the lift as you're going into the lift. And then what you want to do is look at your radar, and I'm going to have to get like a pause frame of this, but say for example, if you look at my radar right now, you see how there's kind of that curved pillar thing below the lift. You want to look at your radar, and when this pillar, this third pillar here, the last one before the exit, is kind of lined up with the center of your radar, sort of like this right now, that's when you want to start the scrolling. I found that that works better with a little bit of a slower scroll speed. Again, finding that scroll rhythm is kind of up to you to find something that works, but using this radar and the like curved pillar structure can be a helpful lineup for knowing when to start the scrolling. You could obviously always use that as your starting point. Just keep practicing until you find a scroll that works for you. So here's an example of using that. Well, that was not the example. here's an example of using that. And what I did there basically was, as soon as I saw my radar was lined up with the pillar, I started slowly scrolling, and then I increased my scroll speed a little bit as I got closer, because if you scroll too fast using that lineup, you're just gonna drop out before you hit the edge like this. So it's important to keep your scroll slow, at least to start, and if you need to speed up, then you can do that as you get closer. Okay, so now I want to talk about different things that can go wrong. So, kind of the obvious one is if you crouch out too early, you're just gonna miss and fall off and die. So it's very important not to start your crouch out too early. Better to fail and, you know, just get stuck in the lift and lose a couple, like not save a couple seconds, than to die and lose a whole bunch of time. Other things that can go wrong, and I briefly mentioned this early, is if you kind of mess up your timing on where you land here. If you land almost anywhere before the middle of the lift, so like this back end of the lift, and definitely like outside of the pad here, if you move forward and jump, you're gonna get stuck in the lift like that. Now, there is kind of some region in here where if you kind of go forward and jump, you can actually get a little bit of a boost out from the lift thing here, that kind of right as it grabs you, but again, that's not ideal. So let's see, other things that can go wrong. You have to be careful with the scroll motion on the mouse. I find that if I like accidentally move the mouse while I'm scrolling it, then it will throw off my scroll motion as I like roll my finger along the mouse wheel. So you kind of have to be precise about your motion. You don't want to, you know, be too light so that you're like not scrolling enough. Like you need enough pressure to be able to scroll cleanly, but you don't want to like push too hard and like accidentally move the mouse and throw off your motion. So you want to kind of scroll carefully. Cool, so those are the big things I'm aware of that can go wrong with a crouch out. One other topic to discuss is inputs. Obviously, I've said I haven't been able to get this to work with controller. I think I'm just like too slow or something with my crouch inputs on controller. And I've found this to be extremely consistent for me with the mouse. Now, I'm normally a controller player. If you're a mouse and keyboard player, no big deal. You know, you're great. You're gonna be running in here with mouse and keyboard inputs, doing your crouch out, and then continuing with your mouse and keyboard inputs. But if you're a controller player like me, what do? Well, it turns out it's actually pretty easy to incorporate mouse and keyboard into this during a run. And the reason is MCC doesn't like it if you use both controller, so like right now I'm on controller, and then mouse at the same time. So like here I'm like walking around with controller, and then if I try to aim with the mouse, there's kind of like, I can aim with the mouse, but suddenly I can't move anymore. So the game kind of like freezes up and it only lets you use one input at a time, which I get makes sense. What you can do is, if you're on controller, you can go into the lift and then just set your controller down in your lap, on your desk, whatever, and reach for the mouse and keyboard. And because you're not actually entering any inputs on the controller, you can kind of seamlessly switch to mouse and keyboard without getting any kind of freezes or frame drops or anything like that. So what I do is I walk in with controller, I aim correctly, and then I let go, and I get my hand in position to do the crouch out. I failed that one, but you get the idea. Controller here, walk in, kind of aiming at the top of the lift, and then I'm ready for the crouch out on mouse and keyboard. I hit the crouch out, and then while I'm in the air, especially if I hit a really good crouch out, while I'm in the air after the jump, I just let go of my mouse, take my hand off the keyboard for jumping, and I just grab my controller again. And in that kind of half second or second while you're in the air, grab the controller, and then you just keep moving like you normally would. And so that's how you can deal, like if you're normally a controller player, but you want to do this, that's how you can kind of incorporate the mouse and keyboard without too many hiccups. One other thing you can do that I've seen is you can just pause and then switch inputs and resume, and that works both for going controller to keyboard or keyboard to controller. But I found that isn't really necessary because you have all the time while you're going across the lift to switch to mouse, and then the little bit of time while you're in the air, assuming you hit like a real nice crouch out, to switch back to controller. Cool, so I think that is all the information I have on crouchouts so far. If you have anything more that you'd like to add, oh, I will note before I forget the lineup. I heard from Voltro Neon that Temp, another speedrunner, was using the lineup with the radar and these curved things. So shout out to Temp for that idea. Okay, anyways, like, comment, subscribe, whatever. If you have thoughts on this, let me know. Happy to answer any questions. And now I'm gonna cut to a clip of an awesome crouch out sequence I got just while testing crouch outs out in Gravemind runs. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks again.
Slip space rupture. It's in amber cloud.
At this moment, the councilors gather on Halo. See the icon safely.
Rise, Pack Brothers! Cast down the elite!
I have listened to the order, and it confirmed our deepest hope. The great journey begins.
The elites are falling back to the mausoleum.
Fools,
Their arbiter can do nothing for them now.
who would doubt?